Hey minions, welcome to Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and today I want to talk about 8 factions I just don't understand. I'm only going with 8, even though 12 things is such a great number, because I don't think that there are 12 things that fit this criteria, where I seem to deviate significantly from the masses on these factions, or I'm just not seeing what others are seeing. I don't want to say that I'm bad with these factions, because I don't think I am, but my perception of strength and utility is different. Sometimes I can be pretty strict on what I am looking for in a faction, perhaps unforgivingly, and I definitely have my biases, though I try to state them up front. Even then, some people still call me biased, and I'm not sure how that's supposed to work if I declare it up front, but whatever. For fun, I decided to recruit a different player for each faction to provide a high-level summary of the faction that they like more than me to offer both perspectives. If applicable, I'll also talk about areas where I think I've been wrong in the past. My number 8 is Changer Bots, and it should not be a surprise that they are on this list. Changer Bots have one of the lower winning percentages in my games from what I can recall. And, as I've discussed in other videos on this channel, I think it's fair to say that it might actually be me, not them. Maybe it's bad luck. They have very good cards and very underwhelming cards. If you think about Huffy, she's like a Captain Ahab who is more mobile and has the option of being a 3. She does get penalized for missing the Power 2 bonuses, which are given to Bruiser, who is less common. But Bruiser is like a teenage wolf in that both can reach 4 via their talents, but Bruiser provides better power activation and less power creep, and has destruction immunity as well. Solar Shout, if you can get them on separate bases, can provide a lot of value with those extra actions. Those actions don't necessarily come from the Changer Bots themselves, but it's easily fixable. Leader 2 can be a big drop that eclipses King Rex. For their actions, they were more hit or miss than the minions. I do like that the actions can be played in advance for setting up plays, but I lament that they result in a power loss mitigating the impact. But then I look at a card like Passengers, and it's just frustrating. It's a combo card that just doesn't work for me. It can be played on any minion, but because the minion gets the talent, you cannot use it to move an opposing minion because you cannot activate their talent. While this is an extra minion move, you need 2 minions on the same base beforehand, and that's a fairly large pivot, and for the Changer Bots, a power loss accompanies it. Because some of their actions are fairly pedestrian, they come across as a bit of a no-frills utility faction since they can move, boost, destroy, and play extra actions. I just struggle to find partners with them myself outside of a few obvious ones. But here's what Dave has to say about the Changer Bots in their defense. What's not to love about Changer Bots? They bring power and movement. They do lack extra minion plays, so I look for a faction that bring that. Leader 2 brings 8 power, Solar Shout plays extra actions, Bruiser's indestructibility allows him to work well with the Shapeshifters to get those extra minions from actions like Really. Killer Plants work to bring the extra minions, and Changer Bots have 2 destruction actions that work with the planned strategy of slowing their opponents down. Ancient Egyptians Unburying is the type of extra minion play that also works well with the Changer Bots. Changer Bots are power in disguise. Number 7 is Minions of Cthulhu. My opinion on them has changed drastically recently. Before Cthulhu, I had real issues with their design. You had a Minion Star faction with minions that blow themselves up. You have the Cthulhu's Chosen, which I find underwhelming because I don't think that their minion starvation supports last-minute power boosts. I also don't think that their game plan is stealing bases anyway. I think the reason why I dislike them is because they are pure support and lack internal synergy for their own cards. Whispers in Darkness lacks obvious actions to chain into. Madness Unleashed is the same, and it's a very difficult card to use. Also, you don't want Minions of Cthulhu discarding Madness, you want it in your hand to give away. Altar of Cthulhu is a bit easier to use, and I think it's a great card, but it triggers on minions, which again, you are short on. I think that Minions of Cthulhu lives and dies with their spammability. If you can replay the same key cards over and over again, they can do well. If not, it's going to hurt. But where I was definitely wrong in the past is Cthulhu himself. Currently, I'm anti-Cthulhu because it removes the sting out of Minions of Cthulhu entirely. It's not like Cthulhu is difficult to play. You have instant access to it, and that's a problem. Because it means that Whispers in Darkness no longer has a drawback. You just give the madness away. It no longer feels like you are managing a resource because it's too easy to give madness away. Cthulhu itself has the damage on the turn you play it. I now think Cthulhu makes them infinitely more playable, but that they still live and die with spamming cards, in this case, madness cards. Here's what Mike has to say about Minions of Cthulhu in their defense, keeping the emphasis on Cthulhu. Anyone looking to win with the Minions of Cthulhu must be willing to embrace madness and then find ways to get rid of it quickly. To help you with that, you need to be willing to summon Great Cthulhu himself, as his ability allows you to easily spread the madness to others. Number 6 is Sharks. For this one, my lack of understanding comes from the combinations that people have suggested for them, some of which, in my opinion, make no sense. I've seen Sharks described as a swarm faction, and technically they have extra plays, but to me that would be calling the Tricksters a swarm faction. I've seen Sharks described as a general utility faction that can go with anything, and I just don't see it. They gain benefits from destruction, and are severely paced by their ability to provide and react to it. If a faction can counter destruction, their game is extremely limited. That doesn't scream universal appeal to me. I've seen them suggested with Miskatonic, Innsmouth, Ghosts, and all over the place, and while there are small snippets of things that I would like with those, it's not nearly to the level of praise I've seen given to Sharks. Perhaps I think it's because destruction is overrated, but a lot of Shark commentary puts the emphasis on eating your own minions rather than everyone else's, and I just don't see why you'd want to do that. I've also had someone look me in the eye and tell me that Sharknado is OP, and I'm not even touching that one. Here's what Gabriel had to say in defense of Sharks. The deck mechanics are thematic. Your array of minion abilities allow you to hunt from base to base for victims, and then build your power on a base by using that to kill to grow your hammerheads and swarm your Mako Sharks. Secondly, while destruction can be fun, the Sharks address one of the common problems that come with destruction, slowing the game down too much because of a net power loss on a base. The growth and swarming mentioned earlier help to mitigate this by using power counters on your minions to hold some of that power and allowing you to burst with your Mako and Blood in the Water double feature. Number 5 is Samurai. Other than the surprising fit with vampires, I often struggle to find pure synergy partners for them, and their cards do not excite me. They just seem remarkably average at best. They want you to spread out for Shogun, but lack the means to really spread out or recover from that. I find several of their cards difficult to use unless the perfect arrangement happens. The timing on Final Haiku does not always work out in their favor. I want more permanent power increases for honorable combat. They don't have a lot of mid-game actions, and the ones that they do have are generally deferred benefits. I remember really struggling to determine which action was a good candidate for action awareness for them, because nothing really excites me, and I can't explain why that is. While some may see them as simply solid, I see them as pretty forgettable. There aren't many factions that come along and scream perfect partner to them, and that's a drawback for me. Here's what Sonus has to say about Samurai. Choosing Samurai is a safe bet for almost any draft, as they offer general support that all combos like with draw and plus power cards. They can also swing a base in your favor last second with Heart of Battle. Their biggest strength, however, is in their extra VP cards, namely Bushi and Honorable Combat. If you can manage to use Bushi in that duel and also score the base, it can easily become 2 VPs your opponent wasn't accounting for right then and can steal away the game. A 4-2-1 base becomes a 6-2-1. Number 4 is Polynesian Voyagers. If you know me, you know why they are on this list. I completely disagree with their main game plan of spreading out for the sake of spreading out. I really struggle to think of a faction that depends on their partner in such a specific way as requiring movement to undo the forced spread. I have played this faction extensively, and the forced movement for unity of the tribes continually remains to be mathematically inefficient. Yes, it can be a big swing, and you can avoid power creep, but it goes in such an annoying way in wanting to put out more bases. The idea of Volcanic Uprising putting out more bases just to say we did is frustrating and space-consuming. But I also think that their tattoo mechanic did not get fleshed out. You have 5 tattoos and a card that searches for tattoo-like cards. You have 2 copies of Sun Tattoo, which can be incredibly strong, but the no actions on it clause grates my nerves, because it artificially forces you to not save your best minions. It means that you literally cannot combine 25% of your faction cards. Tiki wants to have an action on him, but Sun Tattoo and Ocean Tattoo are so much better fits for Wayfinder. I feel like this faction gets by with a few key cards. I love halflings, which care about not having presence, but it feels so much more natural to them, whereas I've always felt that the Polynesian Voyagers try to shoehorn it into your strategy with cards like Shark Tattoo. I know that many will disagree with me on this, but I just don't see the appeal, and I feel like they beg for a correction from their partner. When they get that, they could actually be pretty fun, but it's like the entire faction was built around having a dedicated weakness. Here's what Nick has to say about the Polynesian Voyagers in their defense. Historically, the Voyagers knew the lands better than anyone, always finding the best opportunities. Following Doctor Strange vs. Thanos, I cause opponents to struggle to focus, never knowing what bases I intend to score. Volcanic Uprising and Maui are essential to get you to 2 times the initial bases ideally. It's not chaos, it's control, starting with strategically placed moais. If opponents want to play where I am, that's where my partner enters. Sumo wrestlers, explorers, dragons, tornadoes, bear cavalry, etc. Tiki is my Sun Tattoo target if a base breaks on my opponent's turn and I'm second, otherwise Wayfinder. They are a fun chess game style faction. Number 3 is Sheep. Out of all these factions, I think Sheep is the one where I have most publicly been accused of not understanding how they work. I know how Sheep work, and I've won with them. I just don't see the top 10 potential that others have claimed. I routinely talk about how I love exploiting other players' cards, and the Sheep themselves are very exploitable. Black Sheep can be really cool, but they can also backfire. For someone who loves second place strategies, a minion that can make it impossible to get one is frustrating, or requiring you to overcommit. Yes, there are mitigations, but I think the mandatory nature of the Sheep is a win that the opponents have. Counting Sheep is the rare card that got better by errataing it to make it worse, because these cards are free power for opponents to manipulate. Sheep have no way of triggering this on their own. Like Polynesian Voyagers, I think they get by with a few really good cards and an incredibly powerful card in Hello Dolly, which becomes a playtesting nightmare. Their random nature is very difficult to plan around unless you fake the randomness with limited options, which makes it difficult to follow the extra actions of You Shall Pass. There is definitely potential, and I have had games where they've been really fun, but for some reason, others don't see the same limitations that I see. In fact, I honestly don't recall an instance where I've lost 2 Sheep, and though it probably has happened, the fact that I don't remember it means a lot to me. Here's what Steven has to say about Sheep. Everything Bandit says about Sheep just isn't true. Wow, don't pull any punches, Steven. Sheep have excellent card draw, movement, and copying of actions. The best thing they do is excel at reacting and doing plays on other players' turns. Black Sheep can pivot to another base on other players' turns and excel greatly at preventing power creep, setting up a big drop on your turn, and changing the power on one base. Black Sheep move after you see where your opponent is deciding to play. Flocks and multiple Black Sheeps are extremely strong. Finally, Hello Dolly is able to copy the strongest actions in the game. Number 2 is Teddy Bears. I know for a fact that I am not alone in my thoughts on the Teddy Bears, making them one of the most polarizing factions in the game. I just don't see the appeal, and I don't enjoy playing them outside of very specific combinations. To me, they suffer from a lack of internal synergy and the fact that many of their cards can be exploited. Ironically, the Teddy Bears also exploit your power, but it can go both ways. 4 of their actions are either defensive or antagonistic, making them extremely situational. I think Love Overload is a great gotcha card, but that is not enough to carry the faction. I know that a lot of people disagree with me about Snuggly Bear, and that alone is enough to show the great disparity between me and them. Lovey Bear can be played around, as can Fun Bear. The Teddy Bear hype is way too high, and they are nowhere near deserving the levels of praise that people heap upon them. Their minions do not mix well with each other at all, and I don't know that my opinion of them will ever change. Here's what a different Steven has to say about the Teddy Bears. No one expects something so cute to be so competitive or brutal. The Teddy Bears have always had good card draw for me and allowed me to play minions quickly. I like the small amount of area control that they can exert with Fun Bear, Lovey Bear, and Bear Picnic. Love Overload is a card my opponents must always be aware of and has been a game changer on many occasions. Cuddle can nullify an opponent's engine minions, and Group Hug can be a significant power boost. Finally, I like the chain play that are possible because of Sir Squeezes. And finally, my number 1 is a faction that a very vocal minority swears by. I don't know them personally, but there are people who swear Miskatonic University is the best faction in the game, and I don't see it. Yes, they are good. Yes, they are underrated. But best in the game? No. They have versatility, but lack the punch of other factions outside of the Professor. A lot is said about their 2 actions that can chain together for +2 global power, but Super Future Space Armor does it in 1 card without madness. They can use madness cards to draw well, but that is technical debt that needs to be cleaned up. If you think of the psychologist returning madness, you need to think about what it is you are course correcting by undoing the madness. Discarding a Madness for +1 power is not particularly spectacular and draws power from its partner card. Things Best Not Known works best when combined with Old Man Jenkins, but they cannot do much against the singular small minion, and you could easily play around it with 2 small minions. Field Trip is a type of deck sifter that I'm not a fan of. A lot of people use this to bury their own Madness, and that just solidifies the loss of VP. Gates of the Beyond can be really strong, but you are getting minions for their printed power since their abilities do not do much to help. Librarians are one of the worst 4s. I think they can do a bit of a lot, but never really in a way that comes across as appealing as Rockstars or Mythic Horses. With a good partner, they can be really strong, but I will never agree that they are the top faction, and a surprising number of people feel that way. But because I don't know these people personally, and because I'm currently on my baby moon and short on time, I turn to Chucky, who is a big Miskatonic fan, to do them more justice. Don't sleep on Miskatonic, as they are extremely versatile and have many great tools. Many players sleep on their deck cycling speed and on how good some of their cards really are. By using Madness cards as fuel and playing them continuously to draw 2, Miskatonic can get through their deck faster than you think. Then, they have some excellent cards of their own. They have several strong options for extra plays, including one of the best boss minions in the entire game with Professor, solid power boosts, as well as 2 incredibly strong specials. They don't excel in a single area, but their complete package and how well they can complement other factions with their speed and tools is often underestimated. So there you have it, 8 factions I probably don't understand. I don't claim to know everything, and there will always be individual metas, which I think is a good thing for a variable player power game. I just don't see the appeal of these factions that others do, and that's okay. As long as you are having fun and winning games, play whoever you want. Are you an apologist for any of these factions? If you think I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. It's kind of the point of this video. That's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's shut it down.